All right, hey everybody, this is Shantavia Johnson again from the Brand and Business Academy, where I help working professionals start their businesses while they're employed full time. And I'm excited to send you this last video in our 3-part series about starting a business in 4 steps. Because so many people get so caught up in what they think are all the complicated steps of starting a business, when it really actually can be decomplicated, because there are really only 4 things you absolutely have to do, with some nuances that I'll mention in this video, but really they're just 4 things you need to do. So the first thing, pick a name that does not get you sued. The second thing, register your business with the Secretary of State's office or whatever the state is in the state of your choice. Number 3, get a tax ID number or a tax EIN number. And then number 4, open a business bank account. And if you do these 4 things, for the vast majority of you, you have started a business. Congratulations. And so I'm going to walk through all of these steps, and I'll mention where there are some nuances depending on the type of business you start and what state you're in and that kind of thing. So first, pick a name that does not get you sued. I don't care what your name is. And honestly, the name of your business can be just about anything within these parameters that I'm going to mention. So many people get caught up in the name. They agonize over it. They spend months and months thinking about a name so they don't actually start anything. But do keep in mind, you can change your business name. The goal really is to get something on the books that is going to do all of the things you need to do as a business owner. So just pick a name that doesn't get you sued. So how can you do that? I'm going to give you 4 suggestions to picking a name that doesn't get you sued. And the reason I think you need to do this first is if you get out of the gate, you register a business, you get a Facebook page and this and that and everything else. If someone else owns that name, then you may get sued. You may have to stop before you actually get started. So in terms of picking a name, 4 things I want you to do. A couple of them are pretty intuitive. Most people do some of these things. Very few people right out of the gate do all of them. So number 1, Google the name. I know this is intuitive advice that everybody already knows, but Google the name and Google various iterations of the name. I think you should have a brainstormed list of 4 or 5 names so that if you do find something that's prohibitive, you've got some other choices. So Google the name. But in addition to Googling the name, set Google alerts for the various business names you're considering. Because even if you don't find anything outright, or if you find just a few things outright, Google alerts can send you regular notifications about what is happening with that name. And so if you get 4,000 emails saying, here are all the different ways this name is being used from Google Alerts, then that tells you there may be some other claim of ownership in that name. Second, check for trademarks. Check federal and state if possible. And why this is important is when people own a trademark in a name or in a slogan or in a collection of words, many of those people will be actively monitoring their trademarks. And they can have a viable cause of action against you if you're using a name in the same way to sell the same or similar products that the trademark owner is selling. So this gets pretty complicated, and many people, if you're not already a lawyer yourself, and if you don't already know a lawyer or have a lawyer, you may need to talk to a lawyer about the logistics of doing this. But with federal trademarks, you can search the United States Patent and Trademark Office website at uspto.gov if you're in the United States. With state-related trademarks, all states typically have some type of trademark database. Some states do not make that publicly available or publicly searchable. So checking for trademarks may be a little tough, and this is when a lawyer can help. What you should also do, number 3, check for domain names and social media. So check to see at GoDaddy.com or Namecheap.com or wherever you want to go. Check for the domain names to see what's available. If the domain name isn't available, somebody's bought it. Maybe that somebody is using it for their business. Maybe that somebody is just looking for a market to sell that domain name to someone who does want it. But check for domain names. Then also check social media handles, check social media hashtags to see if there are other people using that name in a specific way. None of these things, finding all of these things or none of these things isn't a definitive yes or no to the name that you can choose, but it gives you the landscape to figure out whether this is something you should move forward with or not. And so with domain names and social media, it's the same way. Just because someone owns a domain name or owns the social media username or uses the hashtag, it doesn't mean you can't have a business name in that way. And again, this is when a lawyer, particularly a trademark lawyer, can help you parse out some of the nuances. These are just the steps that I know you need to take. So that's number 3, checking domain names and social media. And then number 4, check the Secretary of State's database in the state where you're going to register your business. And you do this because in every state, most if not all states have a rule that says 2 businesses cannot have the same name. And so you want to make sure when you search your Secretary of State's database that you're choosing a name that no one else has, because otherwise your Secretary of State is going to send you a letter back or an email back saying, hey, you can't have this name because somebody else already has that name. Usually you can make just a couple of tweaks or changes or add a few words, and you can use some variation of that name, but that depends on the state that you're in, and it depends on considerations that you may need to talk to a lawyer about if you find a lot of red flags. Also note with the Secretary of State's database, in most states, the state agency that is responsible for registering businesses is called the Secretary of State, but it may be called something else in your state. So if you don't know what it's called in your state and it's not Secretary of State when you Google it, you can Google like your state's name and business registration, and you can find whatever that agency or office is in your state. So that's the first step in starting your business. Pick a name that does not get you sued. Number 2, register the business. This is a really important choice that some people overlook a bit. You could just start selling products and services without taking any additional steps. If you want to start selling your widget out of your basement tomorrow, in the vast majority of states and cities, you probably can just do that. But do realize that making no decision is actually making a decision. Even if you do nothing, you're making a choice about the type of business structure you have. So it is critical, it's incumbent upon you to think about how you're going to operate your business, how you're going to register your business to let everyone know that you have a business. I think that for the vast majority of people, you should register your business with the Secretary of State. In most instances, the total cost to register a business in a state is about $300. The Small Business Administration in the United States has said in most states, we've done the research, is probably going to cost you about $300. So here's why I think you need to register your business. Number 1, it makes you legit. If you want to be taken seriously as an entrepreneur by your clients, by your customers, by third parties like banks and investors and whoever, having your business registered with a state helps. People view these businesses as more stable, more legitimate, more trustworthy. Being able to say business name LLC or business name incorporated or business name Inc. after the name of your business, that gives you some street cred. And so it makes you legit. It also ensures that your business can continue without you. If you don't formalize your business, if you go out tomorrow and you die, you get hit by a bus and you're incapacitated, you end up in a coma or whatever. If the business is literally just you without a separate formal structure around it, it dies when you die. It's incapacitated when you're incapacitated. So a formalized registered business helps you with this. It can continue no matter what happens to you. And then finally, when you register a business, it protects your personal information and your assets. A company that's not incorporated or registered is not doing you any favors. If you have to sign contracts, if you have to apply for other registrations, if you participate in other business collaborations, you probably will have to share your personal information, including things like your social security number, if you don't have a separate formalized business with a tax ID number. And I'll talk about tax ID numbers next. So it protects your personal information. It also protects your personal assets. So when you have a formalized registered business, when things go wrong, that formalized registered business gives you something called personal liability protection. If something goes wrong, you have an event and a person who comes to that event slips and falls and they want to sue you, and they end up winning in court and they get a judgment for, say, $100,000. If you don't have a formalized business structure around you and your business doesn't have $100,000, a court can require that $100,000 to come out of your personal bank accounts, your personal savings accounts. You might have to sell your house or your car or whatever to satisfy that $100,000 judgment. But if you have a registered business, as long as you have followed all of the legal rules, that business insulates you from personal liability. Meaning, if you get a $100,000 judgment, the only place that $100,000 judgment can come from when you have a formalized business is the business. Your house is protected, your cars are protected, your other assets, your bank accounts, and that kind of thing are protected. And so registering your business with the Secretary of State is important. So that's number 2. So remember, the first thing, pick a name that doesn't get you sued. The second thing, register your business with the Secretary of State. Then the third thing is get a tax ID number. A tax ID number is free. It costs you no money. So the IRS uses a code called the Employer Identification Number, EIN, or some people call it a tax ID number, tax identification number, to identify businesses. The IRS wants to identify businesses and employers who are required to file various business tax returns. It's kind of like a social security number for a business. Some businesses are required to have them. Others don't have to have them, but you can opt in to receive one. And one of the most important reasons why you do want one is because of what I said earlier about signing contracts, applying for registrations, participating in various activities. Oftentimes, if you're doing business with a third party, if money is exchanged at some point, they're going to need your tax ID number or your social security number to record that for tax purposes. If you don't have a tax ID number, then you're going to have to give these strangers your social security number so that that exchange of money can be recorded for tax purposes. So if you don't want to share your social security number with random strangers every time you do business with people, having that tax ID number helps. And like I mentioned, they're free. You can get one at irs.gov, irs.gov. And so that's important. Having that tax ID number will also help you when you need to get a bank account or if you're looking for investors. Many banks want to see a formal business with a tax ID number. So doing these things will make you look legit. It also protects you. It protects your personal security. It protects your personal liability. So that's the third thing. And then the fourth thing, so remember, we're starting a business in 4 steps, is get a business bank account. I alluded to this just a couple minutes ago. You can open a business bank account for as little as $50 in most cases. And the reason you need a business bank account is because you have to be careful of not mixing your business money with your personal money. You should keep your personal funds personal and your business funds business. You need separate accounts for a number of reasons. One of the most important reasons is that there are rules around you keeping that personal liability protection in the event that something goes wrong and you end up getting sued or whatever, or you end up in some type of issue. When you have a formal business around you, One of the things a court will look at to decide whether or not you should be personally liable for any number of different debts is, have you kept your money separate? Have you commingled money, or have you kept those things separate? Have you kept business, and personal? One of the easiest ways to do this is to have a separate bank account for your business. So those are really the 4 steps, and they're pretty simple. Choose a name that doesn't get you sued, register your business with the Secretary of State, get a tax ID number, and get a bank account. Now, there are, depending on what state you're in, all kinds of rules that individual states have. So some states require you to pay some additional fees. You might have franchise fees, any number of different things. Depending on the type of business you have, your state or your governing agency or body might require you to have additional certifications. So like, I'm a lawyer. For me to practice law in any specific state, I need to be licensed for the most part. Cosmetologists have to be licensed. And so there are some other rules that may apply depending on the type of business that you have, and you should be cognizant of those things. Another thing that might pop up for you is where you're operating in business. So different neighborhoods and communities may have rules about the type of business that can be in a specific neighborhood or community. Again, these are all very nuanced though, and specific to the type of business you have, where you are, what you'll be doing, how you'll be operating. But to really just get your business off the ground, those 4 steps will get you much further along than anything else you can do. And so I hope you, at minimum, you take these 4 steps so that you can start your business with the appropriate foundation. And so that concludes the series, this 3-part series about how you can create a business that you love and a brand that you love. If you want more information, you can reach out to me at shantavia.com. If you want more information about how you can take everything you've learned in these 3 videos and create really that brand and business you love, if you need more information, visit brandandbusinessacademy.com. You can sign up there for the wait list to join the Brand and Business Academy the next time it opens up. Thanks so much.